Deep within the labyrinth of America's government, a storm is brewing. The untouchable globalists, those puppet masters nestled in the bureaucracy, thought they'd buried their secrets forever. But now, President Trump and his inner circle are sharpening the knives. They're ready to drag these shadowy figures into the light, to sacrifice them on the altar of a furious public for crimes that stretch from the COVID pandemic to decades of globalist deceptions and hidden agendas. Sweeping reforms are coming, a purge to rip the global elite's tentacles from US soil. And leading the pack straight to the guillotine, Dr. Anthony Fauci, his preemptive pardon ripped up, his past crimes under a microscope, his fate all but sealed. The clock's ticking, the pieces are moving, and trust me, you won't believe what's about to drop. The global elite thought they'd hit the jackpot with Joseph Biden, a perfect pawn for their twisted game. Corrupt to the core, compromised beyond redemption, and barely clinging to coherence, this puppet president spent 4 years as their willing tool. Whatever his shadowy masters slid across his desk, he signed, sometimes without even lifting a finger, letting an auto pen do the dirty work. For them, he was the ideal frontman, a hollow shell, obediently greenlighting their agenda while the strings stayed firmly out of sight. Such blatant treason cannot be allowed to stand, especially when Biden's last acts involve the unprecedented preemptive pardoning of a roster of globalist lapdogs and outright criminals. President Donald Trump has declared that last-minute pardons that President Joe Biden issued in the final hours of his term are void, vacant, and of no further force or effect. When asked if the pardons would hold up in court, Trump said, "It's not my decision. That'll be up to a court." The bad news for Anthony Fauci, the modern-day Joseph Mengele, is that the court in question will not be some cushy civilian circus. No, it's a military tribunal, that's right. Brass, bars, and no-nonsense justice. A Trump administration insider warns that Fauci's days of strolling free are ticking down to zero. Destination? Guantanamo Bay. A one-way ticket to a cell block reserved for America's most treacherous betrayers. Trump's not playing games. He's dusting off powers that let the military scoop up US citizens deemed threats to the nation, and he's clearing space at GITMO as we speak. This isn't just another roundup, this is a reckoning, a purge for a rare breed of traitor, those who've betrayed America, handing it over to the shadowy global elite lurking behind the veil. We're exposing the masterminds of chaos, caught in the act, unleashing pandemics, weaving globalist mind games, and corralling the masses like livestock into a dystopian abyss. Take this broken soul, for instance. The global elite were running a script decades in the making, engineered by a finely calibrated killing machine that thrives on chaos and control. But now, the tables are turning. The hunters are becoming the hunted, and the cage doors at Guantanamo are swinging wide open. Understand that when Trump says they are looking at the Statute of Limitations, this is very, very bad news for Fauci, whose pardon has been ripped up, and whose heinous crimes stretch back decades. In the same way that Nazi Dr. Joseph Mengele's crimes horrified the world when his atrocities were exposed after World War II, the scope and reach of Fauci's horrific experiments on animals, children, and society at large are leaving investigators stunned. The man is a straight-up psychopath whose parallels with Mengele are frightening. Imagine this. Fauci takes your own beloved dog, locks it in a room with swarms of starving sandflies, traps its head in a cage, cuts out its vocal cords so it can't even whimper and lets those flies eat it alive. All while taunting you that he's spending the money you paid the government. Why did Fauci subject those puppies to such agony? Was it critical to his research? Hardly. He did it for one chilling reason, because he could. Some people just want to watch the world burn, and Fauci, he's one of them. But hold on, because it gets darker. This was only the beginning for him. In Hawthorne, New York, the bodies of thousands of children killed by Fauci in illegal medical experiments were unearthed, stacking up undeniable evidence to charge the former NIH director with a litany of crimes against humanity and atrocities against children. Why wasn't this front-page news in every newspaper in the world? Where is the mainstream media? The short answer is mainstream media is hard at work covering up the crimes of the globalist elite, including Fauci's depraved activities. But the tide has turned. Prosecutors are licking their lips, some of whom have lost family members at Fauci's hands. And here's why. They've got an ironclad case against Fauci, locked and loaded, just begging to be unleashed. It's open and shut case, and they're itching to pull the trigger. Just a few years ago, the global elite was celebrating what they believed to be their so-called final solution for humanity, the COVID mRNA vaccine. Their evil plan to inject every single person on Earth with mRNA again and again for years to come. But, the tides have turned. The COVID vaccine rollout is now a crime scene, and Albert Bourla and Bill Gates are on trial in the Netherlands for their roles in orchestrating the COVID pandemic. As for Dr. Fauci, his situation is even more dire. The Trump administration has made it clear. Fauci will face justice in the United States. Fauci stands accused of being the worst serial killer humanity has ever known. And he admitted in his own emails that he planned the pandemic. To truly grasp the horror of this, picture this. The COVID vaccination campaign stands alone in history as the first to increase excess deaths instead of saving lives. This is the dark legacy they desperately tried to bury, but now justice is on its way. Hundreds of millions of people and counting have died because of the evil Dr. Fauci. The modern-day Joseph Mengele lied about everything and destroyed the lives of millions. Future generations will spit at the mention of his name. In classrooms, children will whisper it with dread, taught to tremble at its sound. History will bear the weight of his disgrace. Hundreds of millions lost, their ghosts a silent testament. It's time to arrest Dr. Fauci.